Sex education. Now I have your attention, don't I? Okay, everyone, time for another episode of Hot Tea, Hot Topic. But this time I'm cheating, and this is hot coffee. What's my premise? So glad you asked. The premise is that I believe if we sat down and talked to each other reasonably over a cup of coffee or hot tea about some of the hot topic, hot button issues of our day, we'd get a lot further than we are by just screaming at each other in all caps in the comments section of social media. Call me crazy. Novel idea, right? Talking reasonably, with decency, and genuine concern for our fellow man or woman. Anyway, trying to bring that back. So here I am, ready to discuss something that I think a lot of you will resonate with, and some of you will despise. I can see some of the comments now. Okay, so here goes. I received an email yesterday from the American Family Association, and they had an interview with a woman named Audrey Werner about the dangers of sex education. Audrey Werner is many things. She's a wife, she's a mother, she is a registered nurse, and for a time she was a public health nurse and a school nurse and taught sex education in the public school system in the 90s. When she first started teaching sex ed, she didn't have any kids of her own. Educators were telling her, you're doing kids a favor by telling them about these things because their parents aren't doing it, so we need to step in and do what parents should be doing. The turning point for Audrey came when she started working at an STD clinic shortly after she started having children. It was at this time that she began to see the lies of sex education start to crumble right before her very eyes. Things were not getting better as was projected. They were getting much, much worse. The age of first sexual contact decreased from like 16 to 17 in the early 90s to 10 or 11 by the late 90s. Date rape exploded, and the shame associated with premarital sex plummeted during this time. So what did Audrey do? She began investigating the origins of what she was teaching. So you might be asking yourself, what did we even do before sex ed was taught in schools? Well, believe it or not, wonder of wonders, miracle of miracles, parents told their kids about sex. And they did it in an often indirect, modest way. Hence the birds and the bees. The life cycle that God created at the beginning of time. Here's where things get a little disturbing. The origins of sex ed are based and founded on the teachings of Alfred Kinsey, known as the father of the sexual revolution. His research, his science, was funded by the Rockefellers and eventually US tax dollars. He did a series of sex studies in the 40s and 50s, which culminated in the release of Sexual Behavior in the Human Male in 1948 and Sexual Behavior in the Human Female in 1953. This new science was used to influence literally every institution in America. Medicine, education, legal, the military. Now, science is ideally supposed to be unbiased and objective. Kinsey Science was not those things. One of his main premises in the Sexual Behavior of the Human Male was that children are sexual beings from birth. Table 34 of that book makes you want to puke. Documents and details how many orgasms children have within a 24-hour period, from 5 months old to 14 years old. How do you get that kind of information? Child rape. That's where you get it from. Kinsey is behind many nefarious things, including the push to lower the age of consent, Roe v. Wade, the legalization of pornography. He worked with Margaret Sanger, the racist founder of Planned Parenthood, Hugh Hefner from Playboy. What? A sex ed series that was taught in the 60s literally claimed that by the year 2000, established religion would be abolished and fathers would no longer have a place in the home. That right there says it all. It was designed to destroy the church and the traditional family. So why am I saying all this? Parents, we need to take action. We can't be silent about this kind of stuff. Make sure you know what your children are being taught. Demand to know why your children are being shown graphic sexual acts at school. You tell me, what is the driving force behind this? You're really going to tell me this is good for our children? Wrong. I've had people comment on my previous videos that talk about similar things, and people rail on me for sheltering my children to a dangerous degree, that I'm protecting them from junk like this. You can obviously say what you want. That's the glory of living in America. But we as parents are all faced with choices. Every single day, faced with choices with how to deal with our children, how to teach them, how to raise them, how to discipline them. Of course, I'm going to teach my kids about the birds and the bees. but not before they're ready, and not in the way the school system is trying to do. Kids should be learning how to read and write, how to add and subtract, learning our nation's history, good manners, how to develop moral and upright character, to differentiate between good and evil. I know this is uncomfortable to talk about. It is, but we have to talk about it. Kinsey was not a hero like Hollywood and many others have tried to portray him as. He was a perverted, twisted, warped, tormented man who tried to justify his passions with science and by guilting the masses about their modest and indirect approach to sex. We as parents are responsible for what our children are being fed, being taught, being exposed to. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. We've been duped into believing that the school system and public education knows what's best for your kids better than those who love them most. Us, their parents. And if you don't love your children or care about their well-being, then that's a whole nother problem. Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. It might get you silenced, it might get you canceled. We've been hearing a lot about that lately. The origins of sex ed are not what they seem. That is fact, that is the truth. You can argue all you want, but go do your research. Don't take my word for it. Go look into it yourself. Investigate it. Demand answers. The future of our children is at stake. If we all come together around our children, change is inevitable. If we remain silent, the darkness will continue to spread unchecked, and our children continue to be exploited from younger and younger ages. If you found this insightful, please share. Let's talk about it. Leave some comments. What are your thoughts? What has your experience been? Let's converse, not spew insults. And if you don't know how to do that, then this is not the platform for you. Thank you all for your time. I don't take it for granted. Obviously, this is a multifaceted issue. I could go on, but I won't. Follow my page or subscribe for more videos. Oh, and before you go, remember to laugh a little and pray a lot.